Hey, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Talking to Artists, the in casual, informal chat that kind of talks a little bit about the artist's process and inspiration and what's going on in their lives, and helps artists to a certain degree too to kind of understand a bit about the business of art and what it actually takes to get all those gorgeous pieces on people's walls. Also designed for collectors to be able to kind of just understand a little bit about what goes on behind the curtain, the agony, the angst, and the serendipity that happens when creating original art. So pretty excited to talk to everybody today. This is episode 49. I can't believe I'm coming up to a year almost. That's pretty incredible. And today we're going to be talking to West Coast artist Marianne Enhorning, who is out in Courtney Comox, which is where my sister is too. Just a few housekeeping type things first. First of all, there are a couple of shows that I'm involved in that are still live. The Cottage Life virtual show, the store is still open, and since we're getting some great weather, so hopefully we'll kind of start to move into cottage season. And know that with everything, if you see it, it's sold. I'm happy to do a commission. I do love doing commissions. There's also the Rave New York show, which is also open, as well as the Art Gallery of Hamilton. So check my bio for the links for those shows if you're interested in anything. And also here, note here. Cool. And the other thing is I just hit 4,000 followers on Instagram, so I'm super happy about that. So thank you everybody for your support. It really means a lot. And it's just a wonderful way, especially since we can't meet people in person, to be able to kind of make that connection. So I am now going to see whether or not Marianne is on the call, and look forward to, there she is. So it's been a while. We used to see each other quite regularly at different shows, but so I'm hoping she's coming on. Well, I'll also just kind of chat a little bit about, I've started doing a couple of in the studio videos, and those I'm trying to design more kind of for a collector and art buyer market. So, hey, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Wow.
What a glorious background you have there.
Well, I thought, what should I do? And so I just put this big painting that's a good, otherwise it's kind of messy. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, look at mine. I have this, I'm in my cottage studio, which used to be a bunkie, right? So I have this huge pull-out couch that I can't move anywhere else. So I kind of have to cover it, but it's huge and it gets in the way and it's super ugly, but I need to paint a fun covering or something for it.
That's so nice. So you're at your cottage studio. It looks so wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I really have absolutely no excuse to complain. The only thing is I do find it gets a bit lonely. You know, I miss just kind of obviously the art shows and stuff, but just the general, conversations you have when you go to a gallery and you talk to the gallery owners and you talk to collectors. Absolutely. And you get to see everybody in real life.
Yeah.
So,
and your hair looks awesome.
Thanks. I just got tired.
I love it. That's so great.
I thought, well, even if I'm not doing a show in, New York and San Diego, I can at least pretend.
I know. Yeah, I miss our shows so much. It's hard, eh? It's a bit hard not doing them. Yeah.
Yeah. So for people who kind of don't know, obviously, Marianne and I have done a lot of shows across. Well, you come to do the Artist Project every year. We did Art Vancouver together, as well as San Diego, New York, Miami. So yeah, it's been pretty fun. So we always try and sneak a few extra days.
Yeah.
Do something fun, like drink champagne in Central Park. That was really fun.
That was really special. I'll never forget that. That was the best.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, you're a good lover of life. Make the best of life, and I love that. Yeah.
Well, thanks. I would say a bad influence, but
Great influence. Yeah.
So just wanted to talk about, you have a really interesting and unusual kind of pathway to being an artist. And I know that you obviously started off life as an architect in U of T, so in Toronto, and now you're kind of the other coast. You want to talk a little bit about kind of your history and how you kind of got to where you are?
Sure. Okay, yeah. I went to architecture school at UBC, and I was really unsure whether to become a doctor or an architect or a marine biologist. All these things were very, very serious thoughts. But anyway, I ended up going through architecture school and becoming a designer, always focusing on the design part in architecture. So, and the social part, the people part. So that was the important part for me. But and in the beginning of architecture, I mean, it's all consuming and it's so fun. Like I would, you know, do competitions and stay all night, do all nighters. And it was, I had major, major passion for it. And school, architecture school was just unbelievably great. I loved it. Not everybody loves it, but it was all about the design for me. It was just like dream up any design and just play. And I loved it. And then I loved also being in architecture and working. I worked in some good firms where design was really important. So, and I was lucky because I was always kind of working in the design part. And so, because there's lots of parts to architecture, which is not as, for me, not as fun, like, you know, like all the materials and code checks and bylaws and all that kind of stuff was, yeah, but some people really like it. But for me, I am so sort of scattered and it didn't work for me. So that part was really hard. So I was lucky. I never really had to do much of that. When I went on my own, of course I had to, but it was smaller jobs and it was, but anyway, after a while, like I worked in architecture for a long time. And then I guess it was around 10 years ago or a little bit more, I started not having as much passion for it. And I just felt like there was something that wasn't quite right, you know, staying in it. Like I used to just dedicate everything to the jobs and I didn't feel like I was doing that anymore. So I thought it might be time for a shift, but I wasn't sure.
Well, and I think you're right. I think that does happen when you've been, you know, because I was in advertising and marketing and executive events, and I loved them as well for a long time. But I think for me, and maybe this was for you too, after a while, you've solved all the problems and it now becomes more rote. It doesn't become quite that same level of exploring and experimenting and creating because you're kind of at that point where you have such a base knowledge, but you also can't really totally experiment with things because you've got other responsibilities to your clients and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. It changes, it shifts. There's a shift, you know, and there's also an enthusiasm that's for newness, you know, and it just changes. And anyway, so I was just ready for something different. It was funny because I always thought I'd be a teacher too. That was one of the main ones in the beginning of my life. I thought I'd be a teacher, but then someone said, oh, you can always be a teacher. You can always go back to teaching. So I did think of going back and getting my teachers, but then it was kind of too late. And I was told that by some teachers and they said, you know, it's too late. And I went, wow, that's a hard one to hear, you know, because I never think anything's too late. I'm sort of like you, right? Like, yeah, let's do this. I'm a yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm a yes person. Let's do this. And so that was a bit hard to hear. But then I thought, okay, I could become an EA, like an education assistant. I don't know what they're called in Toronto, but they're called EAs here. But anyway, and so I thought, okay, I'll do that. So I actually applied and I was going to do that. But then, and I was volunteering with special needs and, you know, I really did love it. And I thought, okay, that's going to be my next sort of step in life. But then I had an opportunity to paint in your sisters, or, you know, there was a group of, I think there were 6 of them.
You were among the first of the original Art Alchemy.
Well,
group,
right? You know what? I wasn't. Yeah, no, I wasn't. I was one of the first guests to the Art Alchemy. So there was a group of, I think, 5 or 6 who were the core members, and they started it. I didn't start it at all. But Helen, of course, your sister, was one of them, and then there were, I think, 4 or 5 others. And so they had this thing going. They had this amazing, well, as you know, amazing space and then I had an opportunity. They were renting out little pieces of or little portions of space that you could rent and paint. And I thought, God, you know, I've always painted and I've always done a little bit, but I've never had my own space. And I thought, wow, that would be so cool just to try. And so I did. I thought I just tried, but it was not at all thinking that I would do it as a career. You know, it was just like, yeah, so fun to do. And so, of course, I got totally into it. I loved it so much. So I painted away there. And then you know, it was just for a month trial, but of course I wanted to keep going. So I kept going, and, you know, the people were lovely, and it was just like, I loved it so much, and major passion was back, right? Like, it was just so great.
Well, it sounds like it's all the key elements that you kind of had when you were in architecture school.
Right.
Like, it's the social piece of it, the creativity, the collaboration, the talking about it, and the creative outlook.
Yeah, it was just fantastic, and it was so free. Like, you know, and that's the difference too with architecture. You know, you do have there are so many restrictions, like not only the clients, but there's, you know, there's material, there's weather, there's site restrictions, there's gravity, you know, like, it's just, there's engineering, there's bylaws, there's so much that at the end you don't really, you know, it's a nice project, but it's not really yours in the end, because there's, or not, sometimes it doesn't feel like it's yours, because you know, you had to change the windows because, you know, the windows you chose didn't work out, or whatever it is. And so I felt so free, you know, I just felt like, wow, I can just paint and no one can say I'm right or wrong, and I can do whatever I want. I just loved it. And so, I mean, I've painted before, but never so intensely, you know, and so it felt just right. But again, not like, I was still doing my architecture work, and I, you know, I have 2 girls, and I was still very busy with my other parts of my life. But wow, going to the studio was a real treat, you know. And then there were 2 other women who were renting space there who weren't part of the core. And then someone, I don't know who or how it came about, but someone thought that we should have the 3 sort of guest visitors at this Art Alchemy should have a show. And so, you know, I thought that was cool. And of course, I was majorly prolific. I was just painting away, so I had tons to show. But then someone started saying, we, you know, put prices on, and I thought, really? Like,
now it's scary and real,
right? And I didn't even think of selling. Like, I thought that was so kind of weird. Like, you know, it wasn't even in my radar, like, to sell. That was just so strange. So anyway, but they, you know, people put prices on, so I did too. And anyway, and yeah, I sold a bunch of stuff. I sold a bunch of paintings on that show, and you know, it was unbelievable. It was a really weird feeling, actually. I was just like, wow, this is so weird. But it also was that it was all my friends, right? It was all my friends. And so I thought they were just being nice, and it didn't really mean anything, and all that stuff. So, you know how that is, right? I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I totally remember, because as an artist, that's what you think. Like, oh yeah, all my friends are just supporting my family, just supporting me. But the reality is, you get out of this industry, it's like, well, my friends can really support me, but if they don't like the work, they're still not going to buy the work, right?
I know, and people would say that, but I still didn't really, you know, I still figured, they were being really nice, and you know, but then later, I remember the first piece I sold to a couple in Victoria, and it was just like, wow, I don't know them, and they bought my art. So then I started I started realizing that, wow, maybe I could, you know, do this. But anyway, so that's how kind of I shifted, and you know, and I was painting really big pieces, so I needed more space. So I moved out into a friend had a double garage sort of suite, and so I got to use that. And so anyway, that's how I started my art career. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Yeah. And so, like, I know you do kind of kayaks and bicycles and some landscapes and stuff, but you're probably best known for your women. So did your women, were they the first kinds of things that you painted, or did it take a while to kind of come through though? Because I know they're quite emotional. Yeah. Like, you have a real emotional connection to your women. And I remember you having a conversation about, at some point, I don't remember when, maybe when I was visiting Helen, about the fact that, you know, you loved doing them, but you just didn't really think they were going to sell. Like, didn't seem like the kind of thing that was going to sell, which of course was completely wrong.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, because I can't remember. In the beginning, I'm trying to think of the paintings that, you know, I did for that first show, and then later it was sort of, definitely not women, definitely not the women. It was more landscapey, kind of abstract-y landscapes. And actually, there was one Little Woman one. That's right, and it sold. Yeah, it's interesting. No, there were 2. That's right. Yeah, so I was probably, I don't know. I'm intrigued by you know, women, but I hadn't done any of the life size ones. And yeah, I didn't think they would sell. And I mean, in the West Coast here, I definitely sell, like if I were to count, I sell more of my landscape, people and nature series, you know? So Toronto is amazing because I really have, you know, for the shows in Toronto, my women paintings sell really well. And I'm just so, oh, it's incredible. It is very, very emotional for me to paint those, and then to actually, that people actually buy them. Like, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know, because I've been sometimes at the booths and I can see that it's very emotional for the people that are buying them too. And then sometimes they're crying. Yeah. Like, it's very, you really have tapped into, I think, something that's really, I don't know, integral maybe to being female and to what it's like to be a woman or be a girl, or capture kind of that sort of that essence. And I definitely see people making that very personal connection to the work.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. And I mean, for me, the thing that's so, you know, moving for me is that it's very therapeutic for me. Because I mean, I definitely struggled being a girl. Like, I just kind of always wanted to be a boy, and I just didn't feel like it was good to be a girl, you know. And that's such a horrible feeling to have, and you know, well into my adult life, and now I'm finally, you know, just loving being a woman, and the strength and the, you know, the passion and emotions that women have. I just love it. So yeah, and I celebrate that with these paintings, but it is very emotional for me to paint them. And so that's one part. And then to actually be able to sell them is just, wow. So I'm so thankful. You know, it's crazy. Yeah.
And so why just, I'm just curious, and you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, it might be too personal, but why is it that you kind of felt that being a woman was particularly kind of hard growing up? I mean, you also chose an industry, like architecture tends to be more, I mean, very aggressive and very competitive, and, you know, typically male dominated. I think that's starting to change. But
it is starting to change for sure, but still the major firms, the owner of the firms, pretty much most of them are men still. So but it is shifting. There are lots of women going into architecture. Yeah, I think, I mean, I think what happened, I mean, definitely I grew up in the culture where, you know, women were pretty and kind of more, you know, like not expected to be smart and that kind of thing. And so,
like decorative.
Yeah. I mean, my mom loved, like, and I have 3 older brothers. So, you know, she had one boy, and then of course they wanted a girl, and then they had twin boys. So then when I came along, it was like I was this precious, pretty little thing, right? That she wanted to have in dresses and curls. And like, I was never that kind of girl, you know, and because I wanted to be with my brothers, and I wanted to be, you know, I wanted so badly to be as good as them probably when I was little, right? But they were always better because they were older, but then they were also boys. Yeah. And so, you know, I always felt like, yeah, I was good. You know, I was good for a girl kind of thing. Like, you know, it was always like I won this big ski race in Sweden, right? I was a skier, and so were my brothers, but they were better than me and they didn't win, right? So it was just always felt like, oh, well, what does it really mean? You know, that kind of thing. So I always sort of thought, well, it's just, I never could rate, but you know, it's a hard one. And it was the culture too. Like, it was just kind of, yeah, I don't know. It was, the girls were sort of supposed to do certain things, and the guys were out playing ball and having fun. And I wanted to do things. So I was a doer. So I was probably trying to prove myself, because when I look back at life, and, you know, I talked to my husband about this, and he sort of realizes that, yeah, like I was moved into, like I was, you know, a kayak guide. I mean, there are lots of other women kayak guides, but definitely it felt more like, you know, I would be the one, like the guys would move out of the way when I was chopping the wood and things like that. Like, it was just, you know, they go, let the guy do it, right? Like, it was And then and then I skydived and I went to this boat building school and I was the only girl there. Like, I did a lot of things that were kind of kind of probably trying to prove that I was as good as men or something. I don't know. Like, it's hard to say why, but I never really realized it at the time. But looking back, I was probably never really comfortable with being just, in my own skin and in my own being a woman,
Well, and it sounds like, and I think you're right. Definitely, culture is shifting a bit, but it's still, and I think Swedish culture too, there's all this romance about the beautiful women, so you can totally see how it could be, you could kind of be compartmentalized there. But I also suspect, just as you're talking, some of this also has to do with being the youngest and kind of having your siblings who are always there as a comparison, and they're always that much older, and it's hard to kind of compete with them, and you start to build that habitual responses to those kinds of scenarios, even as you get older, and you can be as good. I think my sister and I have talked about this a lot too. Obviously, I'm the oldest, she's the youngest, and it does form you the way you kind of do things. I
think so too. I think it has so much to do with being the youngest, and then I happen to be a girl. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's hard to know why people become the way they become. But anyway, the therapy of painting and particularly painting the women has really helped me, feel stronger, like even doing this interview right now. Oh my God, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, even I would have been like, I don't feel 100% comfortable people watching me, but
even though you know me.
Well, because if it was just you and me, it would be different. But I see people, someone joined and someone else joined, and I'm like,
I'll just ignore them.
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, I just feel, I don't know, I'm getting more confident, and which is just great, like having, I just didn't have a voice. I remember in architecture, it was so scary having to talk in front of people and present things. And I didn't dare open my mouth, like if I had something to say, in school, I didn't feel like my opinion counted, and that's just my own stuff. Right. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's a wonderful way to work through your therapy to do these women. So not only are you kind of healing yourself and stuff, which is amazing, you're producing an incredible and unique and very identifiable body of work, but then you're also kind of helping the therapy of other people too, who buy it and live with it. And I think that's just a beautiful story.
Yeah, I do feel so lucky that that's how sort of an artist seems to work. Like you end up having the joy of doing the painting, and then after that it lives on with other people. It's just unbelievable, it's really neat.
And do you have a hard time selling your pieces? Like, do you feel like you want to keep them with you, or is the therapy and the catharsis done and now you're happy to share them with the world?
I remember
have them live somewhere else?
I remember the first time I sold, the first piece I sold, I burst into tears. I was so, I couldn't believe it. So that was hard. But then now I don't have a problem with it at all. Like, cause now it's, I know there's going to come more out of me, and I know someone's enjoying it, and that means a lot to me. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so all your women are 68.5 by 16 inches, which I find really interesting, that it's kind of such an odd shape. Like, where did that come from?
It's funny. I was trying to think about that because I realized that the first time I painted big women I was given a large canvas. It was 8 foot wide by 5 foot tall. And I painted these very abstracty women on it, but the heads were kind of cut off because I made them life size, but they were kind of cut off at the heads. And then I got a commission from that. And so I did these commission and I was very fearful of doing a commission. So I did 4 pieces that, so that she could choose, the woman who wanted a painting could choose something. And so they were 5 foot tall as well. And you know, they worked out, and she chose a piece and she was really happy. And then I sold another piece, and then I wanted to keep doing them, but I thought, you know, I really don't want to cut off the heads. Like, I really want to be able to and so I asked my husband, he builds the canvas or the panels for me. And so I asked him to build them 5'8.5", because I always wear clogs. And so that's kind of my height. And so, because when I paint, I don't really, like, I'm sort of painting by, you know, I put my knee to the panel, and then I sort of make a mark there, and then I put my hip, and I'm kind of right there with the painting. And so it's my size, you know, and so it's so much better having them actually, like, when people ask me, can you make a smaller one? It's sort of like, 4 foot, like, what do I do then? You know, I mean, I can do it, but it's not as, I don't know, it just feels so,
it must feel a bit more confining, right? Because it's not really the way that you work. You have to change the way you work if you're doing that.
And so, and then I make them different widths. Like, some of them are 16 inches, but I make the widest ones I make are 32 inches, and then I make some that are 12 inches. And I love the restrictive size of 12 inches. It's really quite cool to you paint such a tall and narrow, and trying to get the feeling of the woman in, because some of it doesn't fit, right? But I love,
they kind of push on the
I love that.
Well, and then we're doing, you know, Helen and I are working on our my family garden show, and it's the same thing. So everything's restricted, like 60 inches high, but they're long and thin like yours. And Helen often paints that shape, but I don't as much. And so it is definitely, it's an interesting exercise to kind of still create that same energy and feeling and stuff, but you know, in a different shape. But the other thing with yours that I just love, because I remember the first time, I don't remember what the first show was that I was in with you. Maybe it was the Artist Project. And then your booth, of course, was huge, and it was so architecturally created. Well, on the black background with all of these women that were all exactly the same shape, same height, almost like a film strip. Yeah. I mean, just very striking.
Well, that is very intentional, that it would be like a film strip. Yeah, that's what it's meant to look like, kind of like just this ongoing, and it's supposed to just look like it continues sort of forever. You know, it doesn't end with the end walls, but it's just supposed to continue. So, but you know, because of my architectural background, I am very, the graphics and the setup is so important. I spend so much time designing my booth. And I just,
because it's been like, do you think Marianne's going to join us for dinner in San Diego? No, she's going to be there for another 7 hours, and then go in tomorrow morning and redo it all.
I know, I'm so picky. Like, it just, I know it's crazy.
It looks amazing, though. I mean, I can't fault you for that.
Yeah.
That's funny. Excuse me. So obviously, as I talked about, you were talking about the Vancouver market tends to be more kind of the landscapes and the outdoor, capturing the outdoor pieces of it. Certainly Toronto seems to be very, the women are very popular. And from what I've seen in New York and San Diego as well, like the women seem to be kind of the things you show. So what was your kind of impetus to start to move outside of your own environment in terms of Vancouver?
Oh, you mean to do shows elsewhere? Oh, well, you know what? It was right in the beginning. I remember when I just started sort of realizing that, oh gosh, maybe I could actually make a living doing art. I remember my family, as you know, they live in Toronto. I have 2 brothers who live there. And I was visiting Toronto, and I went into a couple of galleries and just talked to people, not to apply or anything, but just talked to people about art and just sort of how to sort of make an art career kind of thing, or just ask, people, and just, it was really fun. And I heard about the Artist Project. This is years ago, right? And I didn't know anything about it, but people said, oh yeah, like I did hear some people say it was great, but some people said, oh, but it's so expensive. It's like $3,000 or something to do. And I went, $3,000, there's no way, right? Of course, now we spend way more than that, and it's so worth it. Like, it's like the best, But yeah, I just didn't think that I would do it then. But then it was your sister, it was Helen. lovely Helen. She was doing it because of you. Again, it's because of you, I'm sure. She was doing it probably because of you.
I pushed her and she pushed you.
Well, what happened was, I think she was, I can't even remember, but it was really close to time. Like it was, I think it might have even been after Christmas. She was doing it. And then and I said, God, I wish I was doing that. And then she said, well, maybe you could still ask, you know. And of course it was full, but then I called them and I said, is there any way? And there must have been a cancellation. I think that's how you did it too, right? So
I did. Yeah, I got it in a cancellation.
Yeah. And so then I just kind of did it. And that was my first big show. And it was just, wow, this is so great, you know, because then of course, again, there I have a lot of, you know, high school friends and family. So a lot of people, I sold a lot, but again, it was probably a lot of family and friends, you know, but it felt good anyway. Yeah. But yeah, so then,
that's good.
Yeah. So Toronto, and then because of the artist project, that's how I started moving out, because after that show, I realized, wow, this is the best, you know, so definitely I'm going to do this year after year. And so I've never not done the artist project, except now, of course, but you know, it's like it's an amazing place, you know, just to have people come to actually, you know, I thought, oh, they'd come to look at art, but they're actually coming to buy art for their living room walls. They have their dimensions and they're, you know, and yeah. And I mean, with the women, I didn't know if they would sell, but Toronto is, I don't know. I just feel like they're kind of, I don't know. There's something about Toronto that's more, I shouldn't say cultured, but they're just, that part is more important. I think in the outdoors here, it's so important to be outside. Like people will spend money on a really nice bike here, right? I mean, they would in Toronto too, but in Toronto, maybe they value the arts more, or going to the theater, and I don't know. That could be wrong.
Well, and I think also just generally you just have more people here, which means you have a higher chance of someone being interested in your
more
work.
people, for sure. But I definitely see a difference in the clients. Like there's definitely more people who like the women in Toronto area. I don't know. Maybe I haven't had enough exposure here actually, because we only did the one show, right? But if there were more shows in Vancouver, it would be different. Maybe, yeah, yeah. But
yeah. And so, what are you doing now that there aren't shows? Like you're obviously, I mean, there's online stuff, but
so I'm super thankful that I have done these shows. I must say, this is where, you know, that you always hear about shows and then what's it called? The after effects or whatever of a show, like. And I'm finding that now that people are contacting me and saying, hey, I saw your work, you know, at the Artist Project 2 years ago. And I was wondering, you know, if you have a piece or if I can have, I'm doing a lot of commissions. That seems to be what you know, that's how I'm kind of making a living now, it feels like. You know, sometimes people just buy what I have, but because I'm not doing the shows, you know, of course, I'm not getting the same exposure. So, but the commissions are great. And yeah. And commissions, I mean, it's interesting because I'm really liking them now a lot. The first time somebody asked me to do if I would do a commission, I said no, because I thought, I just said no, there's no way I can do a commission, because I'm way too kind of emotional and like, I don't know where it's going to go. And I just kind of paint and I don't know what's going to happen. And so how can I do a commission? I just thought, no way. But then, and that poor person, I said, no, that's it.
So poor person, if you're following, she's doing commissions now.
Exactly. So anyway, so then later then later I realized the way for me to do commissions is to do many, like I sort of generally do 3 paintings for the person. So usually it's that they want a certain theme, like let's say they want a kayak painting, but the one I have, or the ones I have, are not the right size, and so they want one that's specific for their walls. So I have them send an image of their wall, and then I draw it up on an architecture program that I can sort of test different sizes, and then they choose. And then at that point I make 3 or my husband builds 3 panels that size, and then I paint 3. And so if they've said they hate, you know, they really love a color and they hate lime green or something, and I'm painting, all of a sudden I'm painting lime green, I just keep going, because I'm not going to, you know what I mean? I'm not going to stop, because I have 2 other canvases on the go. And so that happens a lot. And
plus I think often, although people will say things like, I don't like lime green. I mean, sometimes when the painting really needs it for whatever purpose, right? So I find often too, if you restrict yourself too much as an artist, you end up with something that's not strong.
That's right.
Versus something that has lime green, and the chances are pretty high, in my experience, the client will love that anyway, because it fits.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And
so you're now working out of, you've got your own little gallery store thing set up in Comox now, right?
Yeah, I do. Should I take you on a tour?
Sure. Yeah, take us on a quick tour.
I don't know how to do it. Oh yeah, maybe there. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's my dog standing.
Hi.
My dog's standing there waiting for me, waiting to go for a walk. So, I'm very fortunate. I have, so here's my main door. I'm on the main street. There's the
beautiful.
Yeah, that's the building right across from me. And so, you come in here, and I have a big piece here called Disappearing Abundance, which is, 8 foot wide. And then I have a wall of women.
Yeah. They're beautiful. Love the red dressed one.
And then I have, you know, some sort of smaller square foots here. And then I have a large painting here, abstracty. And then I have paintings on the go. Like, I have a lot of things. And then this part is like a little store. I have my cards here. This is so funny doing this. I should do this and post a little tour, but and then I have these are popular. I sell these too on the shows. These are my little paintings, my little originals. And then these are some 8-inch by 8-inch small originals too. And then I have, you know, some prints that I do that are mounted prints onto board. And then I have my little cards here that that I sell a lot of too. So it's kind of like a little gift shop, this part. So yeah, I feel
that's perfect.
Lucky. Yeah, it's really, really wonderful. I feel incredibly lucky to have this space. So yeah. Anyway.
Oh, excellent.
A little tour. Okay, I'll come back to. Let's see if I can. Oh no, Oh, there. Okay.
There you are.
There I am. Yeah. Yeah, so I feel it's so nice. Go ahead.
And so that must mean that since you've got a store open, then you kind of run regular store hours in your studio. You paint in your studio, which is also your store,
well,
right?
you know, I don't really
normally
run store hours because it looks great. There's this big building, but it's like there's not a lot of people here. It's small, right? It's not as if I get a lot of people. You know, I get a couple a week kind of thing, you know what I mean? It's not in the summer. I get people for sure in the summer. Sometimes it can be like there are people coming kind of constantly, or not constantly, but there could be a group of 3 and then another group, and so it's kind of hard to get painting if that's the case. And so it's always that dilemma too, like, because I want to paint, and so you know how much to have it open. So I don't really generally put out my sandwich board very much, but I have a wonderful helper now who comes on Mondays, and she's 16, and she helps me with everything really. Like, she's so great. You know, I've taught her to wire, and she does edges for me. And now I just was showing her some computer work. And so anyway, when she's here, then I put up the sandwich board, because then she can, you know, if there are lots of people coming, but there aren't lots of people. So, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good though. Yeah, I know. I'm to that point too. I would just love to outsource some of that stuff. I just spent all yesterday doing edges and, you know, sanding the sides down.
It's the best.
I mean, although it's sometimes it's therapeutic, but sometimes it just gets in the way of being able to just paint.
Yeah, I found I was coming home so many days saying, I didn't get to paint today. I didn't get to paint today. Darn, I didn't even paint today. Like I heard myself say it all the time, and it's just like, yeah, it's just a lot of work to, you know, just answering emails and different inquiries. And it's just constant. Well, as you know, it's just constant, right? So I just,
Yeah.
to be able to have that help has just been amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I love it.
And I see that. So I'm just going to check my time.
Yeah.
So I forgot to set my timer today. We're good. Okay. We have 15 more minutes if we want to. So the other thing I've noticed is that you use Artwork Archive for all of your, looks like for all of your tracking and stuff,
Yeah.
but you also seem to use that as your, almost as your website.
Yeah, you know what? Okay, so that's shifting, but yes, you're right. It was sort of like my website. So Artwork Archive, I must say, I am so all over the map, like really. And I am not, like you are an example of an organized person. I know that. Yeah, you are. You are.
I just fake it.
No, you are so organized. And I'm like, I just get so distracted and I forget where I put things. And I just would have no clue where paintings were if I didn't have Artwork Archive. Like I don't know how people do it. Like, and people will say, oh, you know, that the one that has the blue kayaker. And, you know, I've done a lot of blue kayakers right at this point. I was like, I have no idea. But then, you know, if they say a name, I just punch it into Artwork Archive and there it is, you know, and it will say where it is, what location, and it just has all the information. And so for me, it's an inventory system that has been phenomenally great for someone like me. I just can't imagine what I would do without it, because I would have no idea. I think you're like me too. You paint a lot, right? I do too. I paint a lot. So, I mean, at this point, you know, in the beginning, I could remember all the names and I remembered all the paintings. I still remember quite a few of them, but, you know, but they're definitely getting to the point now where I don't remember all the paintings. And so you know, without some system, I don't know, but I know that some people have their websites sort of organize them. But anyway, I don't know how to move away from Artwork Archive. What I'm doing now is I've actually hired a company to update my website, and it's not going to be with Artwork Archive, but I'm still going to keep Artwork Archive to keep myself organized. So I'm going to have
archiving system.
So I'm going
Hey, Marianne, I don't want to interrupt, but your speaker seems to be banging on something.
Oh,
so I'm getting.
Oh, that's no good. Oh,
so sorry.
Okay, there. Oh, okay, thanks for saying that. That's awful. Okay, is it good now?
That's good. It's good now. Yeah, yeah. So I'm just curious. And this is totally selfish. I'm asking for this because. You know, so do you have a system in place then when you paint it, you photograph it, you put it into Artwork Archive and you kind of track it, or just that also is a lot of work, right?
And that's what I mean. It's a lot of work. And I haven't trained Renee, the girl who comes here, but you know, if I can, I would, because she's so great, and that's a lot of work, you know, and because I'm not that organized, that is what I need to do, right? And I don't always. So it's a drag when I see, oh, that painting, it says it's in the studio. Darn, I didn't update it, right? I don't know where it is. So I have to keep on top of it. And I don't always. But right now, it's pretty good. And I'm going to really, really try to keep it up to date, because that is the important part. Like if you don't do that, then it's worthless, right? But if you do that, so you know, all I do is I move paintings from a show or from a gallery or something, I move them to another place, and then I just go through and I just say, okay, now, and it says what date I moved it, everything. It just does it for you. I mean, but you have to do it, but then it's there, you know. But I know, and you have a system what do you use for that, to know where everything is?
Well, I used to use Excel. Now I actually use coding on the file names of how I name them, like in terms of where they're located and when I've updated, if they're resin or not, if they are, if they've been updated on my website and stuff like that. The little treasures for me are the most challenging ones, because sometimes you're in a zone, you're just producing a bunch of them. So now what I do is I actually take an orange Sharpie and I put a star on the back. So if I've got a star on the back of it, I know that it's in the store. So I can't grab it for an outdoor show and sell it. I try and keep those inventories separate. Right. So, because I did the same thing where I kind of was not very good about tracking it, especially when we were doing these outdoor shows and you just grab a bunch off the wall. sell a bunch, and then you're like, oh, was that in the store?
Right.
And then I would
yeah,
sell something at the same time. I've sold outdoors, and then I'd sell it online at the same time, which was not good.
Yeah. And I don't have my stuff online yet, like that you can buy them online, but that is what I'm working on or that's what I've hired this company. And, you know, it's a lot of work to get it up, you know, get it all put into place, but I will have things that will be, you know, my paintings and cards and everything is going to be available online. So that's cool.
Excellent. Well, you'll let us know when that happens.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think especially cards and prints and those small, those kind of long, thin ones you do. I mean, they make a lot of sense to sell online. I mean, they're great. You know, they're like my little treasures, your bread and butters as you're kind of doing these outdoor shows. But they're also not very risky for people to buy online versus a big 30 by 60 or something is a bit more stressful.
Yeah.
For people
Do you
to buy
find, are you selling large paintings online? Like, do you sell unseen a lot or is it mostly?
Occasionally. Yeah. Most of the people, even the people that I think are unseen, it ends up that they actually have seen my work somewhere at a show or at a gallery or something. So I don't think it's totally, because partially too, my stuff doesn't really show that well online. Like, you can't really see the wood grain, and that's such an important part. So, you know, I think typically what happens is that people have seen it in real life.
Yeah.
So I've just decided also just to sell my little treasures, just the small ones, because it also doesn't compromise my relationships with any of the galleries, because they're not making a huge amount of money on those little guys anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you don't put those little guys in your galleries. You just have them on your online shop.
I do. So I tend to have some that are on my store, and then I paint a separate set that would go to galleries and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think it's nice for them sometimes to have that kind of spontaneous pickup that they can sell, but you know, they're not getting rich off those.
No.
And then on my website, I mark them so that I will say, oh, if you're interested in this piece, then go to Petrov Gallery or go to PI or go to Art or whatever. Yeah. You know, so that it drives the traffic from my website to the gallery.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
But you know, it's a challenge, right? Because I'm just I don't know, I'm just hoping that when this is over, we can go back to doing real live shows. And then it's kind of, to me, that was really nice to have small pieces online, the galleries selling, and then kind of doing some in-person ones where you get to talk to the collectors and, you know, make some of those sales too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look forward to the shows big time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, I mean, Toronto, of course, is on lockdown, but I'm hoping there's some in August that might work. Even in the end of June, where we won't be able to have a big show, but I think we'll probably try and do almost like a studio tent tour or whatever.
Right,
you know,
right. Oh, that would be nice. Yeah.
Tent at the end of the driveway. Yeah. Make sure that everyone's following the rules and stuff. But
yeah, we have our, you know, I don't know if you've ever come to the Philberg. Have you ever come to the Philberg, the outdoor show here?
No.
Yeah, it's an amazing show. It's so nice. It's so unfortunate that it was canceled because, of course, it's outdoors. But I mean, I get it why it was canceled because, of course, lots of people. But it's lovely. It's so nice, and yeah, it's such a. You can't get a nicer show, I think, because the venue is just beautiful, and then you know people just enjoy it's a music fest too, right? So it's music and art. Right. It's absolutely wonderful. So I hope that
those are fun.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm looking forward to them too.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss It's fun to do. It's funny because I've sort of sworn to myself, I will never, ever complain when I have to kind of schlep my tent across the mud and put it up in an outdoor show, because I just so miss them so much. You don't sometimes know what you miss till it's gone.
I agree. You know, it's funny. I really will appreciate them even more now. It's funny, eh? Yeah. I absolutely. Yeah. I really realize the absolute wonder of those shows. Like, it is amazing that we're so lucky to have them, you know? So I'm very, very much looking forward to them. Yeah.
It's going to be fun. All right. I think we are getting close to our end, just so I have time to save it and everything. So I always like to end all of my interviews with, if money and time and stuff were no object at all, what would your big hairy ass goal be?
Okay. You always ask that, and that's neat.
So you should be prepared.
Yeah, I am prepared. I do know what, well, I mean, I have a lot of wishes and goals in my life, but one of them is definitely to have, like in San Diego, I was given my booth was supposed to be 20 feet, but because they moved me around so much, so they gave me 26 feet, which was amazing. 26-foot wall where I had my women.
All those women, all the women, it looked amazing.
Yeah, and what I would love, if ever, I could, to have my women like a sort of 100 or 200 feet, in a public space, just like, so it just has such an impact that I would be thrilled, if ever I could. I do get a lot of comments when I'm at those shows, oh, this should be in a public space. And I would say, yeah, well, I'd love that, but yeah, so that would be amazing if I was in a, I don't know, big gallery or big room.
It would be just as you were talking, I was just thinking of the L'Orangerie where, Monet's work is, how it's like this full round circle. Like that would be super cool. Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah. It just has such an impact, right? If it large or continuous has more of an impact. So I think, that would be amazing. Yeah.
That would be amazing. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good goal. I think that's doable.
Yeah, it might be. You never know. Yeah. I'm hoping. Yeah. Anyway, it's so nice to talk to you, Kate. I do.
So nice to talk to you too.
Yeah, I think it's really neat that you're doing these talking to artists, and I appreciate all you do for the artist community. It's really great. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. It's selfish. I enjoy it. It gives me an excuse to reach out to artists that I like and admire and pick their brains.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's been really great to have you join us.
Thank you, Kate.
And so I will hopefully see you sometime in Vancouver or Toronto.
Perfect. Okay. Take care.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. That was good. I think we're have to. Well, are you gonna?
I don't know how to get rid of myself.
I haven't figured that part out.
Leave.
Either.
Oh, here it says leave.
Okay. Bye. That was good. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Just wanted to remind you that next week, I'm talking with Angela, and we're going to do another whole series about doing outdoor shows and everything you need to know to do outdoor shows. Now, I know a few weeks ago when Litsa was delayed, we did a little bit of an ad hoc, and Angela was such a trooper to kind of just come in unexpected and do this. But we're going to be a little bit more organized, do things that you need to know about outdoor shows. Now, appreciating that we may not do that many outdoor shows this year, there are still a lot of things that you can learn in terms of pricing and promoting your work and how to work your databases and stuff like that. So hopefully you will join us for that. After that, we've got Hanan Fayed, who is quite an amazing glass artist. I love her work. She does these amazing circular balls, I guess, but really cool. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about her process. And stay tuned, and hopefully we shall see you next week. Again, this will be on my Instagram page, Facebook, and on YouTube, youtube.com/Kate Taylor Art, and slowly working on my podcast, but that's just taking way longer than I'm hoping. Anyway, have a fabulous day, and we'll talk to you later.